Welcome to this basic men's haircut tutorial. My name's Michael Home. I've been cutting hair for over 20 years and I'm going to break down how to cut a simple men's haircut in this video. I'm starting out with a number 2. The smaller numbers can be quite hard to work with, so let's stick with the higher numbers. So with the number 2 on my clipper, I need to get all the hair going in the right direction. So the hair on top, I'm going to pull it over to the side, and this hair on the side, I'm just going to comb it down the way. And then we're ready for the clipper. So I'm going to go in right at the hairline, and I'm going to work straight up to this line here, which is the line around the head where the head sticks out the most. Now what I don't want to do is go up above that line, so when I reach that, I'm just going to pull away with the clipper. That line is known as the parietal ridge, and at the back it's the occipital ridge. Make sure the hair's going in the right direction. Again, pull the ear out of the way and just work straight up to that line and away, being careful to preserve that hair on the top. Now look, I've lifted the corner of the clipper off as I work my way around the ear, just to protect that longer hair higher up. I'm going to show you how to cut that with the scissors as this progresses. It's actually very easy, but I'll continue to work my way around, being sure to make sure that I get the teeth in right at the very hairline. That's important because you don't want to miss hair further down. Let's try and make it as clean as possible. Sometimes you can go over it more than once, just to make sure that you have every single hair. Everybody has a bone that sticks out at the back of their head. That's the occipital bone. And you can see here, I'm just going up and I'm working off that bone. I'm gliding away from the head. And look at the long hair above that. Now this is really easy. You can do this. This motion is very simple, especially with a number 2 because it's quite forgiving. I would say if you're a beginner, anything less than a number 2 is going to be a little bit harder to blend in. Shorter numbers are less forgiving and any mistake that you make can be very obvious. So I'm continuing to just glide off and work my way all the way around the head. So I've started on the left hand side and I'm going all the way around to the right hand side now. The pressure of the clipper is basically just the weight that I'm resting the clipper on the head. I'm not pushing in hard with the clipper and I'm not being too soft. So a good way to get that is to just rest the clipper on the head, and that's how much pressure you should have when you're contacting the head with the guard. Over on the side here, again, straight up off the side of the head. When you get to the ear on the other side, make sure that you just hold the ear down and lift off that top corner of the guard so that it's not cutting away into the longer hair that we need to preserve on the top. Now I'm going to show you a method now, and it's a really rough blending in method. You don't need to use it, but basically all you do is you just flip the clipper over, and instead of going up, just work down the way on that ridge. And what this does is it reduces the density of the hair as it's stacked on top of itself. So it's not really taking the length away. If I was to pick this up, it would be the same length, but you don't have like an overhang of bulk. Someone's definitely going to ask if the lever is up or down here. Well, it's up and it's closed. Now once you've done that, you can actually go back in and just come back up, and you might see that there's some hair that's been missed when you're joining the two areas together. A lot of barbers use this method, but I would consider it a rough method. It will kind of blend the hair in, and to some extent it's not perfect. If you're not very confident with scissors, you're just doing this for, you know, a friend or a family member, then maybe this is sufficient and you don't need to be too skilled to do this. But I will show you in this tutorial a much better way to blend in. At the sides, what we do is pull the comb down to the hairline and trim. Just pull all the hair down so it can be trimmed. Watch that you don't go too high over the hairline by the ear. We don't want to create what I call a mud guard. So all I'm looking for is the hair that just stands out beyond the hairline. At the back, trimming the neck hair away outside of the hairline. Don't go into the hairline. This hair, I'm going to pull it down because it stands, it pushes up the way. So I'm pulling it down with the comb and I'm just going to trim across. And that makes sure that there's no fluffy hair. You know, that hair there can be a little bit more fluffy. It's neck hair, it's not head hair. So we need to distinguish what's head hair, what's neck hair, and try not to go too far inside. You can almost see that there's a clear difference between neck hair and head hair. So continue working around, pulling the hair down on that side as well with the comb. The comb and the clipper pretty much work together. They're the best friends. On this side, I'm going to use the comb to try and tease the hair up, and I'll just lay it flat so that I can run the trimmer across it. That's a good way to get any long hairs to stand on end, just kind of lift them with the comb. And you see here, I'm just pulling them back to make them stand on end, and then I'll get all the long hairs. They're easier to get at the front. Just pull the hair onto the face and cut the hair that's on the face and not inside the hairline. Last little tip here, you can do trimmer over comb. So trim the hair down to the depth of the comb. That's a good little method. Let's do the top. I'm going to wet it down, and I'm going to give you an optional guideline. So you don't have to use the guideline if you feel confident that you don't need it. But this is basically a straight line from the crown towards the front. And you can see that the crown will actually be longer and the front will be longer because of the curvature of the head. I'm lifting everything up to a straight line. So the bit right in the middle is going to be shorter. But you don't have to use this guideline. I'll show you the reason for the guideline just now. A lot of barbers don't use a guideline. You don't have to use them. Many barbers use guidelines, many don't. It's personal preference. By combing the hair back, it helps me make a nice clean parting. So I'll separate this hair down to the side. I don't want to cut that just now, and I'll pull the rest across towards the right hand side. Now, remember our guideline. So if we pick up sections and pull them up to the guideline, then we should be able to see some short hair in the section, and we can cut down to that length. So comb in, pick your section up and cut across. Now what I'm doing is, when I pick this up, I can look through my section and look for the guideline that I was telling you about. Okay, so remember, we cut that straight line. There should be a short bit right in the middle. The short bit's going to be more obvious as I work my way towards the middle of the head. And there it is there. There's some short hair there. So I'm just cutting down to that length. That was the length of my guideline. And I know that I'm following a pattern that way. So like I said, you don't have to use a guideline if you don't want to. If you want to just take sections going forward, you can use your previous section as your guide and just work forward to that. Now, if you have a keen interest in cutting hair, I run an online community where I'm very interactive with the students. There's coursework in there. I do live Q&As. There's live one-to-ones. There's a wealth of tutorials, and it's all designed to make you an excellent barber as quick as possible. If at all you're afraid of cutting hair, you don't need to be afraid at all. The community is all about learning, and I will get rid of that fear for you. And this comes from over 20 years of experience. And if you want to know more, there is a link in the description of this video. Now let's take sections again from the back to the front. And this is us covering the left-hand side. So I'm looking for some of that short hair from the middle. And I'll trim down, I'll use that as a guide. So every time I step forward, that's going to keep me right, keep me on the right track as I work my way towards the front and I keep the right length. It's going to be nice and uniform. What's also important to keep it uniform is that your sections are not too big. Sections that are too big are the #1 culprit for a messy haircut. So don't get carried away with going too fast. Only take about as much hair that is equal to the width of the comb when you pick it up. So you don't really want to be taking much more than that to keep it neat. With that area cut, let's pull all this forward. So let's connect this side here. I don't want anything sticking out beyond that vertical line. Okay, so I've got my length on the top, and if I pull this hair out sideways, anything that sticks out beyond where that vertical line that I just showed you is, I want to get rid of. That's like weight, that's overhang. It's not blended in, so I'm going to take that down and get rid of that. I'll just keep working my way towards the front and just pull the hair straight out, looking for what I call a corner. That's what we're doing, we're taking the corner off. I call it cutting corners. Let's stay on this side and I'll show you block graduation. Block graduation is just a fancy name for blending in. So I'm going to pull sections out longer higher up and closer further down. So I'm going to slide my scissor in, put the comb underneath to catch it, and just cut down. So I'm looking for anything that's kind of hanging out. This is block graduation. Some people call this area of the head the block. Look at that hair sticking out there. Let's trim that down. And as you get lower down, there'll be less and less to cut because we're getting closer to the number 2. This is scissor over comb. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. So trim that down a little bit and a little bit more. And I'm just going to follow background onto the crown, and then we'll do the scissor over comb. The important thing about scissor over comb is the comb and the scissor are parallel to each other. You keep them together when you're working, so the bottom blade is along the spine of the comb and you just operate your thumb. So working up, and it should be like dust coming off. You don't want to chomp in too hard here. Just take a tiny amount of hair off and it's going to smooth over that area. This is where it really helps having a big 7-inch scissor because it covers a broad section. Bear in mind, we still have to do the right hand side, but I'm just going to work my way around to the back of the crown because we do need to cover that area as well. So we may as well just do it now. So I'll do the same thing on this side. Remember how I took like a number of sections from the back to the front, and I was looking for my guide in the middle. So I'll find the guide in the middle. You'll notice that sometimes when I pick up the hair, I use the comb to smooth it out. I don't just pick up once, sometimes I pick up twice. I go back in with the comb. I'm just looking to get my section nice and smooth. That's the main thing. Nice and smooth. And I'm looking to take off any long hair that doesn't match in with the length that I've got in the middle. I'm working my way towards the front. By the way, in this video, there's going to be 2 very distinct looks for my client, Barry. So I want you to vote on them. I want you to tell me what you think. If you're watching this video, I'd love to know why you're watching it. Are you trying to learn how to cut hair? Are you new to it? And what's your reason? Are you doing it for family? Are you looking to become a barber? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to know. A lot of people find that blending the hair in can be one of the hardest parts. So these methods, either the rough blending method or the scissor over comb, the block graduation, they're probably the easiest methods that I could give you for blending in hair. I would be very wary of using thinning or texturizing shears to blend hair in. If you know what they are, it's just a scissor with lots of teeth. Now, you can use them and they do make a good job blending in, but what happens is the short hairs in amongst the long hair that you leave, as they grow, they can become what you would call a popper. So they won't lie down flat until they have enough length. Ultimately, what can happen is they can lift the hair. So they start lifting the hair up, making it look puffy. And the client can actually get it in their head that their hair's thicker. Even though you've thinned it out, that's the illusion that it can create. Let's move on to the fringe. It's one of the hardest areas to cut. I think I need to add a little bit more water because it's drying out. And I'm going to cut it in sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and work my way that way. If I slide the scissor in and I rest the fringe on the comb, I'm going to just trim it down a little bit, probably a few millimeters. And every time I pick up a section, I'm going to move closer towards me here, pick up a section, smooth it out, and then just take a similar amount off. So if I keep working that way, what I'm making there is a layered fringe. And eventually the last section, I've hardly really touched the length much, but I could if I wanted to, but it sits nicely. It doesn't sit overly heavy at the edge of the fringe. It looks quite natural. It's layered, and I've layered it in the direction that my client is going to style it. Now here's a bonus tip for you. Since my client has a beard, I'm going to pull the comb right into the area where the neck and the chin connect, and I'm going to cut straight across there. This is a really easy win on the beard. It just neatens it up. It gets rid of that scarf of hair on the neck. Now, I did say I would give Barry a couple of looks here. This is one of them. So I'm going to tidy up the beard just using really 2 methods. Okay, I'm not going to take much length off the beard, but this is one of them. If you want to tidy up a beard easily, that's the area to aim for, just under the neck, in between where the neck and the chin meet. So find that point by just putting the comb straight in there. The next thing is the moustache. Let's just pull the comb down to the lip and trim across the comb. Really easy way to get the lip line. If you go higher than the lip line, it can look a little bit unnatural, so that's what I tend to do. Now, I think anybody could do this. This is so simple. Even if you're just maintaining your own beard yourself at home. I'm not using the razor here. I don't often use the razor on the neck. If I was going to use something, I would use a foil shaver just because it doesn't irritate the skin as much. Trim the lip. Remember, pull the comb down to the lip and then just trim across. So what do you think? This is one look on Barry, right? He's got the beard. Do you like it? Now, Barry actually came in not wanting a beard. So this is what he actually wanted. He wanted to trim the beard off completely. And I want you to give me your opinion. What should he do? Should he keep the beard or go without the beard? What do you think? Beard? No beard. What do you think? Looks cleaner without the beard, but I think he looks distinguished with the beard. One last thing about Barry, he's also a friend and a very knowledgeable personal trainer and gym owner. Barry has his own YouTube channel, and honestly, it's one of the best channels for very hard-hitting, simple tips on fitness. If that's your thing, there's a link for that down below. But until next time, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you again in my next video.